All right, welcome to everyone to our County Council meeting, Tuesday, May 2nd, 2022. And we welcome all those who are on YouTube and watching this, but most of all, a very warm welcome to all that we have in our audience of our police officers and deputies and everyone that's here, their families. We want to give you all a great big thank you for everything that you do in behalf of the county, and to the families that support them, thank you also. All right, without objection, we will start this meeting, and we're going to do the presentation of the colors and the pledge. Then we'll have the opening by County Executive David Zook, but then we're going to read after the review and approval of agenda and the minutes. We will not have a report from our county executive tonight, so we will read the proclamation, and then Sheriff Jensen will do the presentation of the awards to his people here. So,
Madam Chair, may I make a suggestion? I would suggest that after the review and approval of the agenda that you move to the proclamation and presentation of awards, and then we move back to the approval of the minutes and the other items.
All right. Sounds good. All right, any objection to any of that? Objection. Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go with the presentation of the colors and the pledge.
Honor guard, attend pool. Will the audience please rise? Forward, mark. Ready? Wait. Ready? Post. Start. Ready? Freeze. Honor guard. Freeze and march. Will the audience repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. March. Ready? Face. Forward. March. The audience may be seated.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make very brief remarks in my opening today. As you know, our longtime United States Senator Orrin Hatch passed away on April 23rd, and I would ask the council if you would adjourn in his memory this evening. I would also ask the council if you would adjourn in memory of all of our law enforcement family that we've lost in the line of duty. And with that, I will conclude my opening remarks in the form of a prayer. Our dear Father in heaven, we are so grateful to be gathered together this evening as a county family to be able to conduct the business of this county. We are so thankful for this beautiful valley we have to live in, for the good people who are here, and especially for those who protect and serve. We ask this evening a special blessing upon them, that they might be protected, that we might have opportunities to serve them, that we might continue to live in peace and safety, that we might be able to enjoy the prosperity we've been blessed with. We thank thee so much for the health, the safety, the economic prosperity, the beauty of our valley. We're so thankful for the bounteous blessings that have been provided to us, and these things we say in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Executive Zook. All right. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda?
Move approval of the agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, we'll go down, and I will read the proclamation for Law Enforcement Week. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th, 2022 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week of May 15th through 21, 2022 as National Law Enforcement Week, and whereas the members of the Cache County Sheriff's Office play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of Cache County residents, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the Cache County Sheriff's Office unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now, therefore, in recognition of all law enforcement officers, and in particular the men and women of the Cache County Sheriff's Office, be it resolved that the Cache County Council and the Cache County Executive, County of Cache, State of Utah, hereby proclaim the week of May 15th through May 21st, 2022 as Law Enforcement Week, and call upon all citizens of Cache County and all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe this week with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our people may join in, commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in so doing have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens, and proclaims Sunday, May 15th, 2022, as Peace Officers Memorial Day. We further call upon all citizens of Cache County to honor those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. And let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. In witness thereof, we have hereunto set our hand and official seal on this 10th day of May 2022, Barbara Y. Tidwell, Council Chair, David Zook, Cache County Executive. Okay.
All right. Cool. Ready? Please. Forward. Mark. All right. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Sheriff?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair and Council, for having us here tonight. Let us jump into your council meeting and do these awards. I'm honored to be able to be here and present our staff to you. I'm the most fortunate guy in the world. I have the best staff any sheriff could possibly ask for to get to work with and interact with on a daily basis. They do so many great things all year long, and we're going to recognize some of those great things tonight as we go through these awards. So if I could have Lieutenant Hall. If I could have, excuse me, Deputy Cordell Ballard, Sage Perry, Skylar Lim, Brittany Egbert, Jacqueline Kessel, Zach Checketts, and Sergeant Virgil Hutton come up front, please. And while they're on their way up, I'll read the award for them. This is a unit citation for the jail division, and it says, on Sunday, March 21st, 2021, an inmate escaped from the Cache County Jail, successfully overcoming 3 security fences during his outside exercise period. Jail day shift responded quickly to the incident and saw it successfully through to the end. Because of their quick response, the inmate was safely apprehended a very short time later, and safety and security of the jail and its inmates was never compromised. Their response was key in bringing this escape to a very quick and successful end. They all exhibited noteworthy acts that rise above and beyond their normal duties, and it is with great honor that I present these deputies with the Unit Citation Award.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Okay, if we can get a Outstanding Achievement Award goes to Deputy Jonathan Major. There he comes. The Outstanding Achievement Award is presented to a deputy or staff member that excel in the performance of their duty above and beyond that which is required during their daily course of work. They have exercised competence and have been very able to inspire others to improve their quality of work. Deputy Major began his career at the Sheriff's Office as an experienced correctional deputy, having worked in another jail previously. His knowledge and experience, abilities, and ambition has benefited the jail greatly over the past year. Deputy Major is not only a top performer of the tasks as a deputy would normally be assigned to do, he also volunteers for many extra assignments, including advisor for the Sheriff's Office Explorer program. He always produces high-quality results and settles for nothing less than his best. Deputy Major is an alt-tac for the Utah Statewide Criminal Justice Information System for the Sheriff's Office and is heavily involved in instructing other deputies in becoming certified in this system. He teaches the state certified functional behavior class to inmates each week, which helps inmates transition into society, lowering the possibility of them reoffending. Deputy Major became an armor and has revamped the entire system for maintaining firearms and ensuring they are perfect operating condition. He is an outstanding asset to the Sheriff's Office and to Cache County. And it is a great pleasure I award the Outstanding Achievement Award for the Jail Division to Deputy Jonathan Major. Sergeant Shannon George. In 19 years, Sergeant George has served the citizens of Cache County. She has worked in numerous assignments and has become a wealth of knowledge and a great asset to the Sheriff's Office. Previously, Sergeant George had been the Inmate Transportation Sergeant. During those 5 years, she became an expert in this capacity. After she was reassigned to the jail administration, Sergeant George took it upon herself to spend hours of her own time creating help sheets for her replacement. She spent hours with her new transport sergeant helping to train them on how to perform their tasks, while at the same time learning her new job and duties as the admin sergeant. She has been tasked with maintaining jail policy, being the TAC for the Sheriff's Office, and being the inmate grievance sergeant. She often finds herself filling in for other sergeants when they are not available. Because of her knowledge and her experience, she is able to function in almost any position in the jail division. It was a very busy and challenging year for Sergeant George, but she rose to the challenge. Her willingness to train and help others learn is commendable. Sergeant George's drive to tackle any assignment she is asked to do is admirable. The quality of her work is unmatched. She is respected by all of her peers and has always answered their call for assistance and guidance. And with great pleasure, I award the Outstanding Achievement Award for the Jail Division to Sergeant Shannon George. Outstanding Achievement Award, Deputy Michael Christiansen. On February 17th, 2022, deputies working in the jail booking area smelled smoke and immediately began a search to find where the smoke was coming from. They found it was coming from the laundry room. The smoke became considerably worse, and it became necessary for deputies to evacuate inmates from the laundry room, inmate medical cells, civilian staff, and portions of our booking section. The cause of the fire was found to be a pile of hot laundry contained in a laundry bag. This laundry began to smolder unnoticed by the inmate workers in the laundry room until it started to burn. Deputy Christiansen assisted in evacuating inmates from the laundry room, inmate medical cells, and portions of booking. Once individuals had been moved to safety, Deputy Christiansen returned to the laundry room where he removed the flaming bag, burning his hand in the process, and extinguished the fire. Deputy Christiansen played a major role in preventing further bodily injury to the inmates, staff, and reduced damage to the jail facility. It's with great pleasure I award the Outstanding Achievement Award for the Jail Division to Deputy Michael Christiansen. Medal of Valor. I'd like to invite Deputy Skylar Lim to come up front. Already up front? That was a short walk. The Medal of Valor is presented to a deputy for outstanding bravery in the line of duty, where employees risk loss of life with knowledge of danger involved, or a reasonable person would assume life and personal safety was in great danger. On March 21st, 2021, Cass County Jail experienced its first ever inmate escape. During the outside rec time, an inmate escaped the jail, successfully defeating 3 security fences and fleeing on foot. This was an unprecedented experience for all who responded to assist. When the radio traffic alerted staff to the escape attempt, Deputy Lynn responded with his rifle to the outside of the facility, providing cover to the jail's perimeter. Efforts to contain the inmates were unsuccessful. The inmate fled westbound on foot. Deputy Lynn found himself in a unique strategic position and pursued the inmate. He was able to communicate with Incident Command and the inmate's location, appearance, direction of travel, etc. Deputy Lim continued to track the inmate through swampy and cold terrain while relaying important information to Incident Command. This in turn allowed responding units to set up a solid perimeter to contain the inmate and bring him back into custody. The inmate had armed himself with a wooden club and had made comments he'd rather die than stay in jail. This was an indication he'd rather be involved in a deadly force incident with deputies than return to jail. This made the situation extremely dangerous, but despite this, Deputy Lim continued his pursuit until the inmate was apprehended. It was these actions that define not just the type of deputy he is, but the content of his character and the values he upholds. Persistence to last or endure despite opposition, obstacles, or discouragement. Bravery is the quality of state of having the mental or moral strength to face danger, fear difficulty. Valor is to have great courage in the face of danger. So it is with great pleasure I award the Medal of Valor to Deputy Skylar Lim. We can have Deputies Colby Nilsson, Sage Perry, and Dallin Burt please come forward. This is the Life-Saving Award. The Life-Saving Ribbon is presented to an employee who was directly involved in saving the life of another. Their actions, if not taken, would have most likely resulted in the death of a person, whether on or off duty. On January 2nd, 2022, there was a medical event involving an inmate in the jail. Deputy Nielsen was working pod control at the time. An inmate was in their cell with the door closed and began having a seizure. The inmate was unable to push their emergency button just as they fell to the floor. Deputy Nielsen answered the call and attempted to make contact with the inmate through the intercom with no response. When he could not get a visual on the inmate, he concluded the inmate must be lying on the floor and may have something seriously wrong with him. Deputy Nielsen immediately radioed booking, Deputies Dallin Burt and Sage Perry for immediate response to check the inmate. When Deputies Burt and Perry arrived, they found the inmate unresponsive and struggling to breathe. Deputy Perry's training and experience led him to believe this medical event could be caused by an opiate overdose and made an emergency call for Narcan to be brought to the cell. The deputies rolled the inmate on his side so the fluid could be cleared from his airway. Medical personnel arrived shortly after and began treatment. A dose of Narcan was administered and the inmate began to gain consciousness. The inmate was transported to Logan Regional Hospital for further medical assistance. If it had not been for the quick thinking, actions, and excellent communication performed by Deputy Nelson, Deputy Burt, and Deputy Perry, it is likely this inmate would have died. It is great pleasure I award the life-saving ribbon to Deputy Colby Nelson, Deputy Dallin Burt, and Deputy Sage Perry. Lieutenant Barchi. Patrol Division Life-Saving Award. I'd like to invite Deputies Matt Hansen and Deputy Meza to come forward, please. On July 13th, 2021, Deputy Matt Hansen and Deputy Meza were dispatched to a call regarding a suicidal subject. When they arrived, they found the subject in a closet, standing on tiptoes with the rope tightly wrapped around his neck, struggling to remain conscious. Deputy Hansen quickly lifted the subject high enough to relieve tension on the rope, allowing Deputy Meza to cut him down. Deputy Hansen and Meza's action demonstrated a high level of leadership, professionalism, compassion, and control under pressure. The subject stated that he was on the verge of losing consciousness, and if not for the quick response, would have surely died. It is a great pleasure I award the life-saving ribbon to Deputy Matt Hansen and Deputy Meza. Deputy Mike Richardson. Deputy Year Award for the Patrol Division. The Deputy of the Year Award is presented to a deputy or other staff members for exceptional and distinguished service during the year. Deputy Mike Richardson has been a deputy for over 17 years and a school resource officer for the past 7. He has served in many specialty positions, including SWAT. Deputy Richardson is a professional and constantly works to improve himself to meet the mission ahead. Deputy Richardson has been injured a few times in his career. During those downtime assignments, he was asked to expand training curriculum and improve our field training processes. Deputy Richardson is regarded by his peers as a high performer who holds himself to the highest standards. Deputy Richardson was recognized by high school administration for proactively building relationships every chance he gets. A vital part of the Sheriff's Office mission is working cooperatively with citizens that we serve. These high school administrators were quotes as saying, Deputy Richardson is organized and prepared, and his preparedness keeps him communicating with all members of the high school team. Deputy Richardson has demonstrated his willingness to jump in and create a team environment that helps all others feel at ease. Deputy Richardson is an outstanding individual and a shining example of a deputy sheriff, and we thank you for all you do. It was a great pleasure. I award the Deputy of the Year for the Patrol Division to Deputy Mike Richardson. Deputy Michael Hepworth and Kevin Schaff, please start up. Life-Saving Award. The life-saving ribbon is presented to an employee who is directly involved in saving the life of another, for actions, if not taken, would have most likely resulted in the death of a person, whether on or off duty. On November 20th, 2021, Deputy Michael Hepworth and Deputy Kevin Schaff were dispatched to an incident at Newton Reservoir involving juveniles drinking. When deputies arrived on scene, they found that most of the juveniles had already departed. At this time, a couple of juveniles that were still on scene mentioned to Deputy Hepworth and Deputy Schaff that they could not locate their friend who had been extremely intoxicated. At this time, the two deputies, along with two friends, began a search for the juvenile. When they located the unconscious juvenile lying in the brush, they were unsure if he was even breathing. The deputies then summoned medical to the location, where medical was able to get the juvenile the help that he needed. Had the deputies not located the juvenile when they did, he would have been left outside in temperatures below 30 degrees and could have possibly died from exposure or alcohol poisoning. Deputy Hepworth and Deputy Schaff should both be commended for demonstrating their commitment to community protection. And it was a great pleasure. I award the life-saving ribbon to Deputy Michael Hepworth and Deputy Kevin Schaff. Deputy Dallas Nybert. Life-Saving Award. On February 26, 2022, Deputy Dallas Nybert responded to a medical emergency when an individual was reported having suffered from a gunshot wound. Deputy Nybert was first to arrive and had the foresight to grab his patrol medical kit prior to entering the scene. He located the patient and discovered that the patient was alive but bleeding profusely from a gunshot wound. Deputy Nybert used his medical supplies from his kit to apply pressure and dress the wound, all while communicating with the patient and updating dispatch of the condition of the patient until EMS arrived and could take over life-saving efforts. Deputy Nybert kept control of the scene, speaking with witnesses and the complainant, who was distraught and suffering from shock, while still managing to locate and secure the weapon until additional units could arrive. Deputy Nybert demonstrated a high level of leadership, professionalism, compassion, and control under pressure, which contributed to the preservation of life, scene security, and preservation of evidence. It is a great pleasure I award the life-saving ribbon to Deputy Dallas Nybert. Support Services Division, Lieutenant Peck. And while he's walking in, I'd like to invite Detective Kevin Bennett to come forward, please, for the Outstanding Achievement Award. The Outstanding Achievement Award is presented to a deputy or staff that excel in the performance of their duty above and beyond that which is required during their daily course of work. They have experienced competence and have been able to inspire others to improve the quality of their work. Over the past 2 years, Detective Kevin Bennett has worked diligently to oversee domestic violence cases for Cache County Sheriff's Office. He has reviewed every domestic violence case to ensure that no victims fall between the cracks. As part of the review, he ensures that all criminal charges have been looked at and that every victim is made aware of the services available to them. Detective Bennett also ensures that the victims' advocates are made aware of each victim in order to help them with their needs. He works diligently to educate other deputies regarding domestic violence statutes. Detective Bennett provides pamphlets with information on stalking and other similar crimes to help deputies better understand how to help victims when responding to these types of calls. Detective Bennett is also part of the countywide domestic violence response team. He works hard with other team members to help survivors of domestic violence move forward with their lives. Multiple team members have expressed their appreciation for the time and effort Detective Bennett provides to this team. And it is a great pleasure I award the Outstanding Achievement Award for the Support Services Division to Detective Kevin Bennett. Not Kenneth Bennett. Okay, this is the unit citation. We have Sergeant Chad Kerr, Agents Jamie McLean, Rhett Garr, Bryce Chestnut, Coulter Cottle, Brandon Muir, along with Christy Blauer and Jennifer Roost. In 2020, the County Sheriff's Office began a probation unit to better serve the citizens of Cache County. This was a new endeavor that required a new group of deputies with a different thought process. It was a challenge that was met and has grown ever since. And you guys already know that. The challenges that have faced the probation unit have not decreased since its inception, but have continued to grow. It has required a combined effort from all team members to meet and successfully deal with these challenges. These challenges have included taking on a work diversion program from the jail and integrating it into the world of probation, implementing a 24/7 sobriety program in Cache County, learning to write pre-sentence investigation reports for a wide variety of criminal offenses, managing a caseload on an average of 50-plus offenders per agent, learning new legal standards that are specific to probation, such as probation violation holds, probation-specific search and seizure laws, and conducting assessments for case management and treatment. Working with many different agencies with common goal of helping an offender gain the desire to change their lives, support their families, gain employment, and become clean and sober. The probation unit is ever-changing. They have moved on from just learning a new facet of law enforcement and corrections to having success stories of offenders who have been able to change their lives. County probation is a new program that is in place in over 7 counties, with the success of Cache County being a model agency to follow. It is a great pleasure I award this unit citation to the Cache County Sheriff's Office Probation Unit. Okay, the Sheriff's Medal. I would like to invite Greg Hughes, Greg Hartley, and Jeff Hartley to please come forward. The Sheriff's Medal is presented at the discretion of the sheriff to an employee or citizen for service with distinction under extraordinary circumstances during an emergency or special operation or for exceptional service to the sheriff's office. I've had the honor of working with Greg Hughes, Greg Hartley, and Jeff Hartley for the past 2 years. They have been an invaluable asset to me as well as every sheriff and law enforcement officer in our state. During the legislative session of 2021-2022, law enforcement faced 262 law enforcement-related bills. Because of their expertise in legislative system and their relationships with legislators, we were successful in working with many lawmakers on their bills to make positive changes. We are also able to dismiss many bills that were damaging to public safety. Other major accomplishments include, but are not limited to, repealing bail reform, rewriting the bail schedule and legislation, working on bills to outline sanctions for parole and probation inmates, creating duties for public and private supervision agencies, passing legislation for jail contracting, putting in place a long-term legislative plan for funding, defeating the death penalty repeal bill, defending every citizen's Second Amendment's rights, and certifying that 19-year-olds can be corrections and special functions certified, which will certainly help with recruitment and retention problems in our state. This work and these accomplishments were not done for political expediency, but were done from a true point of caring for the safety of every citizen in our state. Every one of these accomplishments has had a major positive impact in our county and how law enforcement is administered to our citizens. And it was a great pleasure. I award the Sheriff's Medal to Greg Hughes, Greg Hartley, and Jeff Hartley. They keep bugging me for a badge, but they're not quite. It's not there yet. What you guys do next session?
May I just say, I want to thank Sheriff Jensen, but I want you to know, members, council members, but members of the public, how hard this sheriff works for you, for this community, for this county. But as president of the Sheriff's Association, the time he spends at the Capitol and still covering what he has to do, and sometimes I've been more privy maybe to the things happening in the county and what he has to attend to while we're in negotiations and we're speaking with members of legislative leadership, his job seems never ending. And I know that the work that you're doing, because I see it through the lens of your leader, that your sheriff, that the protection and the service that you render is incredibly important. It's why I think Greg Hartley, Jeff Hartley, and I are proud to be on the side of angels, as we like to say, and fight for you, your communities, and for your sheriffs, because you deserve it. And the world today, I don't think they appreciate it as much as they ought to. So thank you, and thank you, Sheriff. Thank you.
Okay, with that, that was the awards we have for tonight, but there are dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of other great acts of valor and accomplishments that all of our deputies have had throughout the whole year. It would be impossible to rein all those in, but these awards tonight are exceptional cases, and I'm proud of all of our deputies here tonight, and I'm proud of our office, and I'm proud of our county for the relationship that we have with our council and with our citizens, and for the support that you show for my office and for our staff. So with that, I want to thank you for your time at council meeting. If you don't mind, I'm going to excuse all these guys. For everybody who got an award, please meet out on the front steps for pictures. I know you love those.
But before you go, we would like to all stand as a council and give you a hand and thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I like having that many guns at a council.
Meeting's not over.
I'd leave if I were. Yeah. Made him stay the whole time.
Could have had an audience.
If it's like church, you
See ya.
probably got a bunch of new creation.
Thank you. All right, while they are filing out, we're going to jump back up to the review and approval of the minutes from April 12th, 2022, and April 26th, 2022.
Madam Chair, I have a motion to amend the minutes from, actually both.
Okay,
I emailed out to you, each council member, an amendment that I'd like to make to 10B on the April 12th minutes. I felt that there was some inaccuracies and that there was some penalizing which was out of place in the minutes. And I don't know if you'd like me to read this or if you all had a chance to read it.
has everyone had a chance to read it?
I'll second that, by the way.
Okay.
Okay. I went ahead in the part that was perhaps maybe everyone had a different point of view. I felt the fairest thing to do was let the video speak for itself, so I inserted the timestamp for each of those things and just put like a little headline of what it was. My goal was to be fair and accurate in doing that. So.
Okay. All right, thank you, Gina. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes with the amendments or corrections that were sent out by Councilwoman Gina Worthen. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Just Councilman.
Yes. Go ahead.
Item of discussion, though, I wanted to, in the research that I've been doing a bunch of research on this solid waste stuff, you know?
Uh-huh.
And then going back into council minutes and all those kind of issues that I really want to encourage that the minutes reflect what was said rather than how it was said or a judgment of intent. It's very vital that we have it in our minutes like that rather than, again, we should not be making judgment of intent or how it was said. So.
Very good.
Just as the clerk, I actually don't even know what the edits are.
I will forward them to you.
Oh, thank you. If possible, would it be possible for you to forward them before the meeting so that we could get them prepared? Actually, it's a good, typically the law likes you to include them in the media packet, any of the edits or things. Now, of course, there are changes that can be made during the meeting. But typically, best practice is to include those in the minutes or in the...
Each council member, and I felt that that was what was appropriate for what I intended to do.
Excellent. My office...
Chair, I make a motion that I amend the minutes of the 426 meeting.
My office is just trying to look to...
All right, all right, all right, all right. Let's not get into this again. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move to amend the minutes from April 26th as well on 11D. There's a motion made, it says motion made by Carl Ward to approve resolution 2022-14, which was the budget. However, that motion died for lack of a second, and that was not indicated. So I move to approve the minutes with the addition of motion dies for lack of second.
All right, second that. All right, it's been moved and seconded that there be a correction and amendment to the minutes for April 26, 2022. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Mr. Bradfield, if you would, discuss what you would like done with either me or Gina or whoever, please let us know, okay?
I was asked to to shorten the minutes last year. We will continue to shorten the minutes to let the video speak for itself, as that truly is the best policy.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are past our time for our public hearings. We will move to 9A, set a public hearing for May 24th, 2022, second. It'll be the second CDBG public hearing.
Move to set the public hearing for May 24th, 2022 for the second CDBG public hearing.
I'll second.
Second, it's been moved and seconded that we set a public hearing for May 24th, 2022, the second CDBG public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, we are going into a public hearing, Ordinance 2022-15, Christie Farm rezone, request to rezone 7.41 acres from the agricultural A10 zone to the rural 2 RU2 zone located at 5560 West, 2000 South near Mendon. And Chris, it looks like you have something to give to us, information on this?
I can give you a brief overview if you'd like, and then you can have that public hearing and have that discussion later. This is 7.41 acres of property just south of Mendon. They're almost adjacent to the city boundary, but not quite. Under the current A10 zone, they can have one house. To rezone to RU2, they'd have an additional 2 potentially developable lots, so a total of 3 in the RU2 zone. There weren't any major red flags. The staff reviewed this, and as the commission reviewed this, it's coming forward to you with a recommendation of approval from both commission and from staff. They may have some improvements to deal with on the road in the future tied to the shoulder width, but the travel lane width meets the minimum standard requirements. That's just a brief overview of it. We can get to the details as needed, but that's kind of the important parts.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Any questions for Chris from the council? All right, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone out there that would like to address this? Okay. Seeing no one is coming up.
Move to close the public hearing then.
Thank you. Moved and seconded that we close the public hearing for Ordinance 2022-15, Christie Farm rezone. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, and now public hearing resolution 2022-15, a resolution declaring 3 county-owned parcels in the Logan, Hyde Park, Smithfield Canal to be surplus property and approving disposal of those plots by quit-claim deed to property owners. Looks like our county attorney has some information for us on this.
You'll recall some years ago, there was a canal failure, I believe in Logan City, that resulted in some fatalities. And at the time, the county sought to get some federal money to improve canals throughout the county. And as part of that process, the understanding initially was that all of the property owners where the canals were would need to sign off on the grant request for the funds. And so the county identified the owners of the property under all of the canals, and in that process found places that were dubbed gap properties where identifying the owner of the property under the canal, weren't able to identify the owner of the property under the canal. And believing that we needed to have an owner sign off on that, an employee of the county quit claim deeded to the county all of those gap properties. Not that not that that employee had title to them, but and a quitclaim deed, the idea of a quitclaim deed is whatever I own, I'm deeding to you. If I don't actually own it, you're not really deeding anything. But that way, we at least had the county on title, and then the county could sign for those. More recently, those two landowners whose property is adjacent to a stretch of gap there have come to the attorney's office and established, to my satisfaction, that indeed in their chain of title, at one time at least, they owned under the canal. The county has never claimed an actual ownership, just a need to get a document in the county's name so that we could sign at that time. Turned out, we learned later, we didn't need that. So these folks, to clear up their title, would like us to deed back by quitclaim deed that property under the canal. Was that clear as mud? No pun intended.
Good pun, John.
Thank you.
This is a recent survey done by the same surveyor that did the survey for the original quitclaim deed. This is in North Logan, where a Smith family owns on this side of the canal, and the Daly family owns on this side of the canal, and over here, the Daly family owns on both sides. The proposal, I mean, the county isn't asserting actual ownership, but we are on title with a quitclaim deed, and so you need to surplus that for us to deed it back. So we're asking the county to surplus in 3 different parcels. Parcel 1 would be from this point going north on the west side of the canal to be deeded to a Smith family trust. That's from the center of the canal going west, from the center of the canal going east to be deeded to a different Smith family trust. And then from this line going south all the way under the canal, both east and west of center line, to be deeded to the Daly family. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Any questions?
I guess my question is, what is the purpose of the families wanting this?
Because their chain of title shows that they did own it, they'd prefer not to have the county, a deed being there on record that the county actually owns the canal, when the county really doesn't claim an ownership to the canal. It's to clean things up.
And they can pay taxes on it.
They could, yeah.
Sounds like a good deal to me.
Well, if they thought it was theirs anyhow, they've probably been paying taxes, have they not, or what?
I don't know what the tax notices have shown. That's not a part that we've had to look into.
I don't see a reason why we shouldn't go ahead and.
Well, now, I remember when is this going to be for public hearing or just?
Yes, it's public hearing, yes.
Let's go ahead and have the public hearing, then
Thank you.
I'll mention something.
Okay, very good. Anyone here in the audience that wants to address this? Yes, please come forward if you'll state your name when you come up.
My name is John Wells. I'm the chairman of the board of directors of the Highline Water Association. The Logan Hyde Park Smithfield Canal that's referenced in your resolution is no longer that. It's the Highline Water Association Canal. But nonetheless, it was our thought and understanding that the property owners on either side of the canal, weren't able to prove ownership, and your attorney has mentioned that they have documentation, I guess, that show that they at one time owned that gap property. That would be good because our company was thinking if you were going to deed it to somebody, if they didn't have documentation that they owned it at one time, that you would deed it to the canal company, the water association, just to help us protect our easement and our right-of-way through there. We do have a dominant easement that's through there, that's been there for well over 100 years. And if there's new title drawn up on this, if it's quitclaimed, we would surely hope that our easement would be documented in that title report so that we can continue to protect our easement that's been there for many, many years. Also, I would request from your attorney that maybe we get a copy of these documents showing these people own title to that. I think that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Does any of the council have any questions for Mr. Wells? I'm sorry.
Not of John, but.
Oh, okay. Any other people that want to come up and address this?
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and Councilman Erickson, you had a comment?
Do we want to save it now, or is it going to come later?
We can go
Okay,
later.
well, I remember this quite vivid. That whole, what I always thought was a crazy thing that was happening is during that whole time, I was also on that board of directors, and the county did come in and kind of start grabbing parcels, you know, as part of that I think in the name of trails is what I'll call it. But in reality, I was shocked at how they did go through and try to, you know, grab some of these gaps and put parcel numbers on without any kind, to me, it was without a whole lot of research. And I'm glad that research has since been done to correct that. But we do need to make sure it is very evident that the canals do have that right-of-way, right to use, go in and make sure that they do their daily business that they have to through all those canals, that make sure that that is reflected or said somewhere in some quitclaim deed that you cannot relinquish any other right-of-ways that exist.
But what our intent is, and excuse me, as John Luthi, I could deed to you the Brooklyn Bridge by quitclaim deed and give you all of my interest in the Brooklyn Bridge. And you wouldn't own the Brooklyn Bridge because I didn't, but it would mess up it would just confuse the title to the Brooklyn Bridge. And that's essentially what happened here. And we're just saying, quit claim it back. And you quit claim back to whoever owns under the Brooklyn Bridge so that it just cleans up the title. Our quit claim deeds don't talk about the canal easement, because they didn't, it was Josh Runhar. Josh didn't deed an easement. We're just deeding by quitclaim deed to the adjacent landowners what Josh Runhar purported to deed to the county. The county acknowledges that there's a long-standing canal easement. The landowners acknowledge there's a long-standing canal.
And I hope that this doesn't cause a wave of a whole lot of other landowners that are going to be now looking at the same thing. Because during what was done at that time by the county.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. All right. Moving on, we'll move back up to 6C, consideration of RAPS Restaurant Tax Committee 2022 funding recommendations. And I think that was all sent out to everyone. Any discussion on that?
I have a question.
Okay.
Those of you that are on the RAPS committee, can you maybe give the council a little information on how you scored it or came to your decisions? We just got an email, at least I did, from someone asking that very question, so I thought it might be good if you guys could tell us how the process works.
I can jump in and just give a brief summary. We received more applications. I think there were 69 total applications, and they totaled about almost $5.6 million in requests. We only had just over $3 million available to distribute, and the committee went through all of those. This is the book of applications here, and this is a lot of reading for everybody on the committee. Just for the information of those who are wondering about the process, I chair the committee, and then each council member has a seat or can have a representative on the committee. So the members of the committee include Councilmember Erickson and Councilmember Tidwell, and then there are citizens in each of the other seats. I just want to commend all of those committee members for the huge amount of work they put in, not only in reading and reviewing all of these applications, but the supplemental material that's provided with them that shows information that we're looking at related to financing, previous funding requests, previous actual funding. And then we had a very long meeting. I think we lasted maybe 4 hours and went through the process of one project at a time, considering the project, considering the request, considering the score. Oh, I skipped a step. Before we met and after all of the committee members reviewed these applications, everybody ranked and scored the applications. So when we had our meeting all together, we were able to go through and review the projects and also review how they scored from the review from each of the committee members. So at that point, we went through each one of them, considered their request, considered their eligibility, considered previous funding requests, considered previous performance, and the committee, I think, is so fantastic, because I did wonder about how hard of a time they would have narrowing it down to only spend the amount of money that we had available. And in fact, there's money left over. And some on the committee doubted whether or not that would be possible, including me, but it was done. The committee did an outstanding job by going through, looking at each one. And just as a little additional background, last year we had more money available than applications. And I thought, with that being the first time I attended that committee meeting last year, I thought it would be a very short meeting and we'd just go in and say, we have enough money to fund everybody and everybody gets funded. I thought the committee or someone on the committee might recommend that. That's not at all what happened last year. Even last year, it was just as detailed of a review and a discussion going through every project, talking about previous funding amounts, what they've done with it, how much money they have in the bank, how much revenue they have coming in, so many details, how many people are being served by the project. So the committee members really thoroughly vetted these projects, talked about the background, the needs, the history, at the same time being cognizant of not making these organizations dependent on these funds, and understanding that they should also be seeking other sources of funding, and that they should be good stewards of the other dollars they have as nonprofit organizations or government agencies. So that's a little bit about the process. Everybody went through. We had discussions. Motions were made about proposals on each one. There was some back and forth, and ultimately we ended up going through all of the applications, and then we went back through and did a second pass and talked about some of the projects that we had put a star next to because we wanted to revisit them if we had extra money. So it was a very thorough process, and once again, I really want to commend all of the members of the committee for their hard work.
Thank you, Executive Zook. Anybody, Councilman Erickson, would you like to add anything to that?
That pretty well describes it. I will say that we have in the past had a lot more detailed questions, but because of it now being an open meeting, supposedly, I think some of these questions are not being asked and can't, because they're sensitive information that I thought we would like to ask as a committee. I know that was expressed by several discussions that I had, but I don't think this should be an open meeting so we can dig into their financial records more and ask more detail. But I still think we got to we effectively did it. but I know we wanted to ask more questions. That committee is not spending the money. It's just making just like it always has. It makes basically, this is the advice that they give, and this is where the money is spent, is from the county council. That's the ratification to accept, change, do whatever, add to, delete. That's what this committee does. So that is not a committee of spending the people's money. That is just an advice that we give, shorten the process for us to look a little more detail. So.
Thank you.
Having sat on that committee myself a few years, I appreciate so much what you go through. And I looked, as I looked through this, I thought, there is a lot of wisdom in these numbers that I've seen. And I really appreciate what they've done here.
Thank you, Carl.
Question for the committee, did you allocate all the money, or is there some in the reserve? Because there's always, it seems like there's a real worthy project that comes along. Like I remember when the top of Utah, or the bike race came along. We didn't know it was coming, and we needed to fund, and we wanted to. We always, in the past, we've always reserved a certain amount of that money to be held back, just in case something like that comes along, that it's not in the county budget, but it needs to be funded. And so, to your knowledge, you spent every bit of it. There's no reserve. There's
some left
There's some
over.
reserve.
We have 3.2 million available, and I believe the recommendation tonight is to spend 2.8 million, 2.847.
I think it's wisdom to save just a little bit back.
Well, and we know Carl will ask for more, so we better hold some back.
Well, on that note, I'd like to ask for some more. I'd like to make a motion to amend.
Can I say something first?
Sure.
As a member of the committee, I echo what has been said, and I think it's really important that everyone know that we do have, the public come in and give their input, and that really does open our eyes a lot and helps us to make decisions. And to be honest, some of them are very more conservative than what we are with the dispensing of those funds. So I do enjoy being on the committee, and it's a great experience. And I'd like to thank Alma back there for putting everything together. He's the one that put everything together, got these books out to us so we could review it, and that was not an easy job. So thank you, Alma. Appreciate that.
Wasn't the number one complaint that they wanted 2 books rather than 1?
Yeah. Could we have it divided? Yeah.
The organization, he was taught well, he learned from it, and I think he put his touch on it, and I thought it was, like you
Very
say,
well
it was
done.
very well organized and easier to follow.
Yeah. So thank you. Okay. Councilwoman Gina.
Thank you. I'd like to move to amend, I lost my place now, sorry. Number 53, North Logan City. They are wanting to put in a new pavilion, and they asked for $300,000, and suggest award was $50,000. I move to amend to add another $100,000 to that to get half of what they ask. Let me give you some background on that. That pavilion, there's a pavilion on the north side of Elkridge Park that's used for, yes, the North Logan Pumpkin Walk. Yes, in all honesty, I'm part of that group that does the pumpkin walk. But it's also used for, a number of other things, and it really is a safety issue. It's old. It's been there probably since the 80s, and it really does need to be replaced. North Logan serves a great number of our county citizens. I got some numbers from their city administrator today, and it is actually the usage of all their parks. The majority are non-North Logan residents. So they really do a great service for our county. And as far as the usage for the North Logan Pumpkin Walk, I think that that's a perfect thing for RAPS. The city uses a budget of about $6,000 to $7,000 to put that on, with hundreds of volunteers, and it attracts over 25,000 people, with which, no offense to the Utah Festival Opera, but there's more people that attend the Pumpkin Walk, I think, than attend the Festival Opera. So it does bring in a good number of economic development. It's a tremendous community event, and I think the last time the Pumpkin Walk asked for any money was back in 2005 when they asked for money to put pavement around so that you could walk around the event. So my motion would be to add $100,000 to that to allow North Logan to build a new pavilion at the park.
I'd second that. I'd agree with you.
There is, we talked about that, and I know, remember the discussion, you two helped me too, but remember the discussion that North Logan, I don't know, I refer to it as are part of the syndicate, that, you know, where the multi-communities that basically contracted said that, hey, we won't ask for anything else during these years. I think there's 2 years left on that, and so we've tried to, as those requests did, we've kept them down because they agreed that they weren't going to.
I didn't know anything about them agreeing not to. I did ask the former person over RAPS, Betty, if they could apply, and was told yes, they could apply for it.
They could, but that was always, you know, that's always come up, that we've always kind of, well, then priority ought to be given to the others that aren't getting that, basically that guaranteed dollars for those other things that they put in back 10 years ago, was it? And we got 2 years left on it.
Yeah, Councilmember Erickson's referring to the 6F conversion agreement in which Hyde Park, North Logan, and Nibley.
It's easier for me to say syndicate.
Yeah. They each received hundreds of thousands, if not more than $1 million in funding from both the sale of that property up by the ice arena as well as RAPS money. And in those agreements, it says that their priority will be the project that is funded through the 6F agreement. It doesn't preclude them from applying for more funds. However, I would agree with Councilmember Erickson that I think the intent was that this was going to be not only their priority, but that they really shouldn't ask. Although some have asked over the years and been funded, but I do think that was the intent.
I think I have a question on that because in talking to the finance department, there's actually no written agreement that's ever been found. So it's just going by memory, but I will say this is a really needed thing. And the thing about the 6F was they did the county a favor, and all the other cities could have got in on that, and they chose not to. The county needed to, for lack of a better word, unload rec land so they could build the high school and do other stuff with that land. And these cities took that on, and so the county wouldn't have to own that rec land, and they've been developing it. And much to the absolute usage of county residents, if you go down to over by Green Canyon and see the usage that they're getting that North Logan has put in, they've got 6 soccer fields, they're putting in pickleball, and it's not just for the city, it's for the county. And I believe that this is also would be for a county, for an event, and therefore I would really ask the council to add in that extra $100,000 for them so that they can get that pavilion built.
Councilman Erickson, how much money were the 6F, how much money was allocated to those people or to those towns? Do you remember?
I don't have that.
It was a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
I think, in my opinion, is when we commit, when we say, okay, we're going to give you all these funds now, but you're going to have to wait till the time comes for you to ask for additional funds. I think as a council that we should honor the decision that was made back then and not rush it, simply because, in the past they got a real windfall, and now as we go on, we forget about that, and now, we got Gina, who is very representative of her area. She is asking that we go ahead and advance it before the time, and I guess to be honest with you, Gina, I think it's wrong that we should allocate that money, even though it is worthy. There's no question about it that it's a worthy expenditure of money, but we should allow what was committed to complete its it's time, and then they can come back and request. We're not gonna deny them, but we've already rewarded them, and to re-award them, we're not following what the council was that we gave them. And what happens is people change, opinions change, everything changed, and a lot of times what was thought of 5 years ago was a good thing. Suddenly when we got it, we are ready for some more before time. And so I am not willing to second it. Somebody else may, but I'll vote against it. But I think North Logan should wait what they agreed to, and in a year or two they should be more than willing. Well, we should be more than willing to fund them again, but same goes for the other cities that did that.
If I could just clarify, the agreement did not preclude them from asking, it just said that they should prioritize the project in the agreement. And the RAPS committee is recommending that the project be partially funded. The recommendation is $50,000. They asked for $300,000. So the committee did weigh that and say, well, we've given them all of this other money, and they didn't feel like it was appropriate to completely fund the project, so they partially funded it at $50,000. That was their recommendation to you.
And I would support the committee in that recommendation, but that's a far cry from what they asked for. And so I think the committee did their job. And so I'm just saying, sitting on the council from years past, seeing these things happen, I mean, there was a definite gift to those communities that requested that, and we need to follow through, and we need to honor what was said and what was done and let it happen in its own due time.
Okay, there's an amendment that's been proposed. Does anyone want to second it?
Carl, didn't you second it?
Well, I'm
Or
going
did
to
you change your
withdraw
mind?
that because I had forgotten all about that. And I remember that it was pretty clear that it was such a substantial amount of money. And North Logan and these other communities agreed that in light of that amount of money being provided for them, that they would withhold for the time.
Okay. Okay, no second? Then the motion dies? Okay, all right. Anything else on the approvements there?
For Carl, are you gonna?
Well, I mean, if it's appropriate, I'll make a motion that we approve the restaurant tax funding recommendations put forth by the RAPS Restaurant Tax Committee for 2022 funding.
Second? Okay.
I'll second.
No, good, very good. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the RAPS Restaurant Tax Committee 2022 funding recommendations. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good, thank you. All right. Okay, all right. Mayor Lindsay, we have Mayor Lindsay Peterson here from North Logan? North Logan, okay. The syndicate, okay.
I pictured this being different, being a villain, but here we are today.
Okay, she's going to give us
Yeah, we'll talk, David.
Okay, she's going to give us an update on the solid waste.
I will say.
After some more words with David.
We can address it later. So I appreciate the council giving me some time today to discuss some progress that we've made on the waste management or garbage removal among the consortium of mayors and also with the county. I just felt like it was important for you to be aware of kind of what's going on behind the scenes so that you're not blindsided by any of it. And also, if you have any input, I would appreciate it. We do regularly meet with David Zook, John Luthi, and we're looping in David Erickson as well with our meetings. So first off, we are on the cusp of having a finalized request for proposal. The city managers drafted that. Some of the city managers from various cities have drafted a version of that. That's been reviewed by 5 waste management companies, ESA, Mr. Adams, who's on the Solid Waste Advisory Board, in addition to the legal departments of all the aforementioned. One of the Republic said that it's the best RFP that they've seen in a couple decades, so we're confident that we've made some really great progress on that. Right now, we're incorporating some of those changes, after which we'll be submitting that to the mayors and also the county for their approval, and we'll issue that. That brings me to the second part of what we've been working on, which is setting up an interlocutory agency. We met last night and agreed that that would be a 9-member committee, executive committee, that we will imbue with the power to enter into a contract for that RFP. That should consist, we're working on that, but that should consist of a north and south member of the Cache County Council, and then 3 north mayors, 3 south mayors, and the county executive. That's the current makeup, and with some, we're going to account for the western part of the valley as well in those. Yeah. Right. So we are still hammering out some of those details. That's our number one priority, because we still have some, we need to get that in place before we can even issue that RFP. So that's priority 1 right now. But like I said, we met last night with that consortium, and I'm confident that we're close to that. And Mr. Lethe has been invaluable in drafting that. So. And then finally, we have another meeting, Mr. Erickson, Mr. Zook, and I, and then along with Holly Danes, ESA, Representative Snyder, Senator Wilson, and then me along with Jason Thompson will be meeting with some Utah State professors who are experts in solid waste, just to go over some of the they've offered to act as mediators. So we've been having discussions. Those have centered primarily around the legislation that was passed that forces the forfeiture of those landfill fees from Logan. That's really caused some waves, and so the Utah State professors are helping mediate that. Just so it's on your radar, Mayor Daines has indicated a willingness to sell the landfill to interested parties. The devil's in the details. We'll see what the price tag would be. We're also, we've made it very clear that we will be looking at what's best for the valley, the cities outside of Logan City, and we're also in conversations with Box Elder. I know that David Zook's been negotiating with them in earnest, so that we have a place to land, or for our waste to land. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Yeah.
Any question?
Yeah.
So if we go to Box Elder County, and if you look at it from the farmer side who has a dead animal or anything else, how does that come into play if we're using Box Elder?
I'm sorry, if we're disposing animal carcasses? You know, I can't speak to that. We're so far on the aerial view of this.
Consideration. Yeah, it will be.
But
most likely, in any case, wherever we decide is the most appropriate or most best value to landfill, we would most likely want a transfer station, and it would likely operate as the transfer station does now, where any resident can take their pickup truck and dump at the transfer station. They don't have to drive all the way out to Clarkston right now. So if it were set up that way, where we were using either Clarkston or Box Elder County or a place in Idaho or wherever, most likely there would be a transfer station, because the waste hauler is not going to want to haul their individual collection trucks all the way out to a landfill that far away, because those are not very efficient. It's not compact enough. It's not big enough. So and that's why Logan City does it that way now.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Mayor, for coming in. We appreciate the information. Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is a council discussion on solid waste. And Councilman Erickson, I'll let you begin this.
I've had some other meetings myself, along with, and I applaud, seriously, I applaud the mayors. They're so proactive, they're going, and I think that, I think they should be moving on that, because I think that that's what needs to happen. But between now and then, as that's developing, as the Board of Trustees for Service Area 1, which is the Cache County Council, I would propose that we hold a joint council meeting with the Logan City Council, and we talk about this and lay the cards out on the table and really talk about this as to, just get all the details really, rather than have everything now coming via. We need to look at each other face to face and get the details. And we just so that we can either, one, it gives us a look as to what our role for the county would, should, or could be, and that we could also collect information and know what we need to do to help the mayors, further their proposals and what they would like to do. I know the mayors, they want a more city control, which I think that's wonderful. That's their responsibility anyway, within their cities. And I say, but that's all forthcoming. But I think it'd be good for us to meet and just have a face-to-face and really talk about these issues as to what their thoughts really are, because I don't think that they really related very good what their total intentions were when they got up and just shared within our county council and did a kind of a hit and run and they were gone.
Okay.
I think that would be good, and I think it's our responsibility still as the Board of Trustees currently, what's happening right now. But I think that we can then come to what we decide, as well as what can be shared and everything that's necessary for the mayor's group to also pursue according to their needs.
I like that idea. Probably sooner the better.
I would think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be supportive of that, right? You want to make sure that if you get the firsthand information from them as the Board of Trustees, you don't have to worry about intermediaries muddying or obfuscating issues. So I like that.
Even though they don't intend to. It's like the game of telephone, right? Where it goes through and you hear something different than what they meant.
Okay.
I'm supportive of that as well.
Again, don't stop, don't wait. I mean, I would make sure that that the mayor's group keep going strong.
Well, just to be clear,
So.
that's mayors plus county.
I know,
Every single
it is.
meeting, mayors and county
It
per
is,
lockstep.
but I don't think we should slow that process one bit while we're also, getting it's better that we have all the facts out there on the table before that everyone can make good decisions at that point. So,
Okay, very good. I'll get in a meeting arranged and
appreciate that.
get that set up so that we can meet that way. All right, thank you, Councilman Erickson. All right, we do not have any department or committee reports at this time, but we do have a Board of Equalization. We need to go into...
Move to go into the Board of Equalization.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we go into the Board of Equalization. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That was an aye on my part, too. Okay. All right, Diana, please come up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
You have two cases before you this evening. Two of our medical establishments that have a charitable purpose that they've proven up. We come before you with a strong recommendation. IHC as to the adjusted Schedule A that we've worked on with IHC and the assessor. And for the Bear Lake, also known as Cache Valley Community Health Center, we come up with a recommendation for 52.6. In the visit that we did with Barbara and Carl, that in their calculations, they included those two empty, the 102 and the 103, that they are going to put an eye and a dental clinic in. So being that they're vacant and not being used for their exclusively charitable purpose, we can't recommend that. So any questions for me?
So it was Barbara, Carl, you, Kathleen?
Kathleen took her commercial appraiser. Jess came, that was, and then of course all of the representatives from each entity. I know you wanted to be there, Paul, instead of doing insurance, but,
And every life a little rain must fall.
and then comes the rainbow, so here we are.
All right, any questions for Diana?
Well, if that's it, then I'd move we approve the recommendations on the IHC Health Services and Cache Valley Community Health Center as proposed.
Second.
At the recommended rate, right? At the recommended amount.
At the recommended amount, exactly, recommended.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we go ahead and approve IHC Health Services, Inc. for Logan Regional Hospital and Cache Valley Community Health Center as recommended in the proposal. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Very good. We'll go out of board.
Move to exit from the Board of Equalization.
I have one more handout for you.
Okay.
I just thought that you would be interested in seeing what you've approved throughout the course of this season on our exclusive use organizations. That gives you a comprehensive list of the 63 that you've approved. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call me. We can chat about them.
Okay. Excellent,
And
Diana.
then I had sent a tax sale report for the council. Did you get that in your packet?
Yes.
And so you've had a chance to look at that, and the auditor's office just wanted to report that there, no tax sale, one more year. And it shows, you have a graph and a table there showing you how it's been reduced through our efforts. I started tracking it in 2012. I think there were like 400 of them, and we haven't had a tax. One parcel has been sold in like the last 10 years, which is pretty exemplary. So, and McAllister, I have to give him credit, for his collection efforts, and instead of looking at only the 5-year and the 4-year, he's now looking at a 3-year so that we can find the people that are delinquent and help them keep their parcels. The only one we had to sell, which was in 2019, was because they were deceased, so we had no luck finding them. And that is all I have for Board of Equalization.
Diana, good job.
They weren't buried in New Mexico, were they?
Do it yourself, cemetery.
And thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Diana.
Move to exit from the Board of Equalization.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we move from the Board of Equalization. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Moving on to 10, pending action. Ordinance 2022-11, an ordinance amending Title III of the Cache County Code regarding revenue and finance to bring it into harmony with state code and current county practices. We had a discussion on this.
I move to postpone indefinitely.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we postpone ordinance 2022-11 indefinitely. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Very good. All right, resolution 2022-12. A resolution updating the rules for public electronic meetings by the Cache County Council.
I have some questions about that,
Okay,
and I'm hoping that John can
Like John's
answer them.
coming up to.
John's coming up here.
Coming up, okay. So John, the questions that I have on this are, I'm not quite sure how to ask, let me think. So as I look at the state law section about authorizing electronic meetings, there were some different choices that the council could make, whether or not a quorum is included. If, like, a person who is connecting remotely, if they're included in quorum, whether they need to ask ahead of time. There's some different choices like that, but I noticed that we didn't have that discussion with you when this was presented to us, and was wondering why.
I think that, and I tasked Taylor with this. This is part of Taylor's review of all of the new legislation, and I think he flagged what was necessary from the new legislation. And so the paragraph 7 in this draft resolution is required now by state code which says during any such electronic meeting in which members of the county council are attending through electronic connection, except for unanimous votes, all votes must be taken by roll call. That's required by the new state code. So we've recommended addition of that, and we're happy to discuss the other things where there's options, but we prepared what was required. And you had a couple of other questions after the last meeting, and I've looked into those, and those are things that we could discuss as well, including one of them being that there does have to be an anchor location for an electronic meeting. You don't necessarily have to define that as one anchor location for every electronic meeting, which your current resolution does, but you could just say that it would be determined on a case-by-case basis. Notice has to go out of where that anchor location is going to be for each meeting, if it's not the same anchor location for each meeting. So yes, there are other things that could be discussed. Again, it's grab the immediate things that need to be changed and then continue a discussion.
Because you don't know.
You may not know.
The calamity that may happen that causes. Where you
Correct.
have that anchor location.
This was initially,
Doesn't it? I'm looking at 524207, and it talks about how the chair can make, because that was one of the questions I have, and so if it's not
Yeah.
safe to meet here, the chair can change that in an emergency.
yeah, under state code, yes. Under your current resolution, this is defined as the anchor location, which was done at the outset of the pandemic with the idea that this would remain the anchor location for electronic meetings during the pandemic, and now looking forward to other potential calamities or reasons for electronic meetings. Happy to draft what you would like on those other items. But paragraph 7 ought to just be added to comply with state code.
So if we just do paragraph 7, I mean, especially for that anchor location, what we can do electronically, it would be great for Bart to kind of give us an idea, or start preparing it. We're not right now calling on the carpet or anything, but I think you could give us some great insight onto what options we would have to perform those public meetings and be able to adjust as necessary in the event of different types of catastrophes.
I can tell you that a lot of you saw down at UAC the crayon application. And we've started looking into already some of the remote voting stuff that would be tied to your tablets, therefore private and secured. Not everybody can get to the stuff you can get to. And use that same type of method, potentially cloud-based, or using the FTP share that we're currently using to do the voting. That's the biggest problem. Like Gina was saying, what constitutes a quorum, who's attending, and whose vote counts. I think if we come up with an electronic means to secure the vote, that takes care of a lot of your problems.
And then, if I remember a conversation you and I had a while back too, because we can have a significant event that could impact our ability to even do electronic meetings if we're doing it through the current internet infrastructure, but we could probably set some local area network type thing up where we could still conduct those within the valley, even if we essentially got cut off.
Potentially, especially if we control our own network, and I have put some ARPA requests in for a point-to-point networking, which would achieve that or take us a long way towards that. Not to be pitching my ARPA requests up here, but the other thing to keep in mind is in the event of a calamity like an earthquake where all infrastructure is gone, you're back to primitive means of communication, which can be carrier, FRS radios. Very simple things can uncomplicate the things that work independent of any infrastructure behind it. So don't just get caught up in network or high-tech solutions. Think about the little FRS radios. They work for miles and miles. Within a valley like this, they are actually a really good communication method for that catastrophic event where poles are all down and you're not going to get anything working very soon.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
Bart.
you.
Everybody
Thank you,
gets a carrier pigeon.
So in an emergency, or like when we had the COVID
Soup can
situation,
and string.
we counted those online, or in that Zoom call, we counted as quorum, and we have on here on number 4, the last sentence says, members attending through electronic connection shall not be included in the count. for determination of a quorum at the anchor location. I'm wondering if we need to count the electronic attending members in the quorum.
Why would they attend if they're not going to be counted then?
Well, right, and how can they vote if they're not part of the quorum? I don't know, it's kind of,
Yeah, that's true.
Your vote doesn't count then.
they're not counted as attending.
I'd read that first part of 4. I think, except during the time of an emergency declaration issued by federal, state, or county executive, an electronic meeting may not be held unless a quorum of the county council is present in person at the anchor location and approves by majority vote to approve establishment of an electronic meeting in order to include other members of the county council through electronic connection. Members attending through electronic connection shall not be included in the count for determination of a quorum at the anchor location. That's talking about if we don't have a declaration of emergency, you've got to have a quorum here, but can include others electronically once you have a quorum here. If there is an emergency declared, this contemplates being able to convene a quorum electronically, is the way I would read that.
Here, not electronically, my vote doesn't count then?
It doesn't say your vote doesn't count, but they've got to get a quorum here before you can hold a meeting, is what that number 4 is talking about.
That's not an emergency, so just tonight, right? If we wanted, if
David was traveling and
Gordon was and Nolan was, we could still come together, have a quorum.
get a quorum
and
here,
say, we're going to do electronic meetings, and then we're going to connect those
And they
three.
could join.
And dial in, and that's what that says.
but if you only had 2 here and 5 outside, you couldn't,
Right.
you wouldn't have a quorum.
Okay.
But that's not required under state law, that's just up to us, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever we want to do.
All right. Any motion on that?
I'll make a motion that we approve a resolution updating the rules for public electronic meetings by the Cache County Council.
Second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2022-12, updating the rules for public electronic meetings by the Cache County Council. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, Resolution 2022-14, a resolution amending the 2022 Cache County budget.
I have a question on that too.
Okay, let me
I
see.
have lots of questions today, as you can tell.
Always, Gina.
Those of us who are on the Budget Committee, I don't remember that we moved forward item 31, the $3.1 million for a remodel. Did we move that forward out of the committee?
I thought we held that back.
I thought we did as well.
Didn't see.
If you did, we'll just, any motion.
Then I moved to strike number 31.
Okay. Come on up, Cameron.
I don't know if we have any official minutes to that, but my notes clearly indicated that that had been voted to move forward, so that's why it's there. That was from my own, that was from my own
Administration
notes.
building remodel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought
We had-
didn't move that
We said that was on hold till we had a study done.
Yes, that's what I recall
That
as
was the
well.
same discussion that we had on the stuff for the victim advocate as well. But my note, it's there because my notes indicated that it had moved forward. I don't know if David or Alma could speak to that, but my notes indicated that it should move forward. So if you don't want it on there, it's fine. I just wanted to clarify that that came from my notes.
My recollection was that before we moved to do that, we were going to have a study because it didn't seem right to approve that until we knew what was needed, who was going where, and all of those things as far as that. So
That's my recollection also.
We approved the study part, but not the remodel part.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's what I remember.
That's what I remember, yes.
And then I had a question on number 25. And I'm sure we talked about this in the committee, I just couldn't remember. The storm sewer projects, were those all county, or were those ones that we were going to let cities apply for? I couldn't remember.
These are all county facilities.
Those are all county. Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or need some clarification?
Well, with those clarifications, I make a motion to approve the amendment to the 2022 Cache County budget.
Now that motion, Carl, two questions. That motion strikes number 31?
Number 31.
Okay. And then just for a clarification, because I'd be happy to second that, and Cameron, you can help me out with this. Number 1, so the internal audit services, it looks like it's covered from intergovernmental into the council's budget. It doesn't say ARPA, but I'm assuming that's ARPA money.
Okay.
I'll second your motion, Carl.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2022-14, amending the 2022 Cache County budget, amending number 31 to not approve improvements, but we were approving a study done. Is that the right way to word that?
I move that we strike it completely.
Okay, okay. And was that what you seconded? Okay, thank you. All right, then we will do a resolution amending the 2022 Cache County budget, striking number 31.
That sounds right to me.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, who was that? That was Dave? Okay, thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave. This ARPA money is just crazy. It's just nuts.
I'm glad you're awake to oppose. That's good.
Okay, going on to 11, initial proposals for consideration of action. We're to Ordinance 2022-15, the Christie Farm rezone. We had a presentation by Chris on this. Any other further discussion or more questions for Chris?
Well, I think it was pretty clear. Planning Commission approved it or recommended approval. And so I would waive the rules and make a motion to approve Ordinance 2022-15, the Christie Farm rezone.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded that we approve or waive the rules and approve Ordinance 2022-15, Christie Farm rezone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Then moving on to B, Ordinance 2022-16, an ordinance amending Section 5.08.1 of the Cache County Code relating to alcohol consumption and alcohol advertisement on county-owned property. Bart, you're going to address us on this?
This sounds like a fun one to deal with again. Cheers. Yes, thank you for your time tonight, members of the council. Several months ago, it was probably Q3 of last year, there was a request made to the advisory board, Fairgrounds Advisory Board, to consider allowing the fairgrounds to allow our customers to have alcohol at certain events, meeting certain criteria. So at that time, a subcommittee was formed to look into this, and the subcommittee consisted of myself, Sean, Julie, a couple people from the attorney's office, Ron Bjorkman, and we started looking at how best to address this. I think what we have come up with both the subcommittee and the ordinance review committee reads pretty well. So one of the
reasons, or several of the reasons, that we're looking at something like this. Right now, there really has not been a good enforcement tool to enforce alcohol consumption on county property. I think this ordinance, the changes of this ordinance, do put some teeth into that. We have multiple requests yearly for alcohol to be served at events. Typically, these are private events, Sportsman for Fish and Wildlife, MS 150 bike tour, many cultural events that are held in the event center, and it needs to be addressed. And I think this is as good a time as any to address it. Currently, the single-use permit, which is addressed in here, is handled by the State of Utah Department of Alcohol and Beverage Control. So there's a permit that would have to be filed with them and get their approval before any of that could happen. What we are trying to do here tonight is lay the framework, and we'll spend the next 6 months probably developing policies to back this framework as to how this really all works. But you've had a chance to read the ordinance. Is there any questions that I can answer about that, or?
Bart, verification, this does not include the Cache County Fair or anything like that. It's just
that's
the
correct.
event center itself.
So really, this would be up to the individual organizers of each event.
Okay.
So if the county so choose to do so, they could, but we're not going to. It's kind of our community standards that we don't feel that that's where we want to be. But there are certain factions in our community that this is kind of part of their culture. And I believe this addresses that.
So, Bart, they'll need to get a single event permit from the state.
Correct.
And then we can develop a policy also that they might have an event policy for the liquor liability that they could then have to buy and provide to the county to cover as well within our policy.
Yes. So that'll all be part of the policy stuff behind that. Do we need security? What are the insurance requirements? I think there's some bond stuff that's already in here that's required by the state. What are their insurance amounts? And who, what, when, and where can these kinds of things take place? The policy as it's written does not specifically pertain to the event center, but it could be any space that's rented from the fairgrounds for an event.
That was my question. If you had a car show or something that's outside of the event center, but it's on the lawn, then they could still do it, but should alcohol only be served in the event center, or can it be out and about, or how does that address?
It could be anywhere on the property, but part of the single event permit also entails that they have to have a specific area, a beer garden or a wine garden or something like that, where they can't take their drinks outside of that area. They can go there, participate, and leave that area.
Would that event sponsor be also responsible for monitoring age or whatever?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And this doesn't apply to, like, here, these buildings, it's just down at the fairgrounds.
Correct.
I guess I'm concerned if we have an event there and it's been authorized for alcohol consumption. How in the world are you going to police it? Is it just a matter of once they've got their permit, then everything goes? Anybody that's got a cooler and a lawn chair is in compliance with what has been applied for and is okay.
Yeah, so that's a great point. But I believe what this special single-use permit entails is people still cannot bring their own alcohol into the facility. They would have to buy it from the vendor on site, who then has trained bartenders that monitor sobriety or the amount of alcohol consumed that would, much like any alcohol establishment now, is supposed to monitor their customers for those kind of events. And I think most of them do a pretty good job.
Mr. Nichols, do you have anything that we should be looking at, or what's your thoughts here?
I've been involved, our attorney Elisa has been involved in this, and we're in favor of this. And the current situation is that we generally, as a county, don't allow alcohol, and yet the private parties, when they rent out the facility, there ends up being alcohol, and it's difficult to police and enforce. This by saying, okay, you can, for example, at a private party have alcohol, but you've got to do it according to code, which includes there being a guest list, and only the people on the guest list can be there and consume alcohol. And we now have a fine structure in place and a misdemeanor offense in place so that there's concrete enforcement options. If they don't just do a private party, but instead get a single event permit, and then you have members of the public there, and you are serving alcohol, but we're doing it under a full framework of state regulation that can be enforced. And then behind that is the contract between the county and the person renting the facility, where you require insurance at specific limits, and what do they need to do in terms of paying for security to be there. And until there's a formal policy of what those contracts ought to include, Bart's using his discretion to, with advice from our office, what legal limits on insurance and those kinds of things to include in those contracts. So it's kind of taking the alcohol consumption that's happening down there that's hard to monitor and just saying, like, let's get a set of rules in place that we can enforce.
So my only other question is if we now find out they're consuming alcohol and that's good at the fairgrounds, then when we have other Cache County sponsored events like a fair that with signs that say alcohol is not required or anything else, how do we make that separation? Does that make sense?
That's a good question that I don't know that we've thought through the public education part.
It seemed to me that if I had drank there 3 days before and now I'm coming back for the fair, game on, I'm going to drink again. Or we've got to be aware of that.
For the policies.
That is policy, and also at the event that they attended prior, there would have been a bartender, or in the case of a private party, which John brought up and I didn't discuss, there may not be a bartender. But if they had been to, say, a Sportsman's for Fish and Wildlife banquet and they came 3 days later for the county fair, there's no bartender there. There's no alcohol available. So.
In either case, you can't just bring your own alcohol.
Right. Correct.
You're either coming to a party where the host provides it, or you're coming to an event where there's a...
Well, I still think there might need to be a sign that, or something that we educate on that.
Yeah.
That certainly could be a part of it.
Because if I heard there was drinking and I might bring my own beer or whatever, I don't know. Just something.
You wouldn't dare.
Back to the old days in Utah.
I'm not talking about any old days here.
But one thing that John brought up, and I should mention, is private events are also part of this ordinance, and that would be a private event under this state ordinance or state code would be they have to meet certain requirements there. They have to have a guest list. It's by invitation only. Things like that. They can't charge for drinks, things of that nature. So they're I think it's a pretty fine line to qualify for some of those type events. I see that as maybe some receptions, things like the different hunting clubs and stuff may qualify for that. But then again, they probably want to charge for their drinks because it's fundraisers for them, so they'll do a single-use permit more than likely.
So I have a question on Part B about the advertising on county-owned property without a contract. Has to be contractually agreed upon in accordance with county policy. Who's setting that county policy? Is that the council or someone else?
That would be the council.
Okay.
And in the absence of a policy, Bart would again exercise discretion on how to do those contracts, and unless and until a policy is in place that directs his discretion.
And part of that, and we've had this discussion in the Ordinance Review Board, is, and the reason that that's on here is because, excuse me, during the county rodeo, PRCA, some of their major sponsors are involved in alcohol sales. We wouldn't want to necessarily turn down the Budweiser Clydesdale team from coming to our rodeo because they advertise Budweiser on the side of their wagon. So that will be part of the policy that's yet to be determined.
Well, at the same time, I bet the council wouldn't want a big, large advertisement there, you know, on it, like a billboard size advertisement there for days on end or something like that.
Correct, and I agree.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Any more questions? Thank you, Bart.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, council, what would you like to do?
I'll move to approve ordinance 2022-16, an ordinance amending section 5.08.100 of the Cache County Code relating to alcohol consumption and alcohol advertisement on county-owned property.
Since that's an initial proposal to waive the rules.
Oh, and waive the rules, thank you.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
I will step up, say second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded with a proposal to waive the rules on ordinance 2022-16, an ordinance amending section 5.08.100 of the Cache County Code relating to alcohol consumption and alcohol advertisement on county-owned property. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
I'm going to abstain on that one,
Okay.
just so Gordon can't say I vote for all the alcohol drinks.
I know you would say something.
I'm going to abstain.
You're going to abstain? Okay. So 2 abstains, 1 negative.
Does that still give us 4?
That still gives us 4. Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, we're down to Resolution 2022-10, approving the appointment of representatives to Avon, Cornish, Hyde Park, Millville, Nibley, Newton, Paradise, and Richmond Cemetery District's Board of Trustees. All right. Where is that?
Would you like me to go first with the Hyde Park?
Go ahead.
Okay.
There it is.
So I'm going to make a motion about the Hyde Park Cemetery Board, and before that, I want to give my reasons for what I'm doing in all transparency. The Hyde Park Cemetery District also includes 704 parcels that are in North Logan, 222 that are not in Hyde Park, that are in something else, I think county and actually Logan City.
And Smithfield.
And Smithfield, thank you. And North Logan citizens, who I represent on the council and where I also live, their mayors let me know they want to pull out of that. North Logan has its own cemetery and has had its own cemetery for 14 years, since 2008. I live in North Logan. I'm not part of the cemetery district though. And so I believe that the best way to accomplish this is to get the Hyde Park Cemetery to work with North Logan City to readjust the boundaries. The best way to do that is to put, quite frankly, a majority of North Logan residents on that board. Now, North Logan has been, for whatever reason, not really represented on this board for many years, and I think it's time they had a voice. If the situation was reversed and it was the North Logan Cemetery District and the Hyde Park residents, had a number of Hyde Park residents on there who were paying for both cemeteries, I would do exactly the same thing, because I think it's unfair and it's double taxation of those 700 properties. It will still leave the Hyde Park Cemetery, if North Logan pulls out, they'll still have a budget based on the budget figures from last year of $73,000. North Logan pays in $27,000. So with that, I will move that we appoint to the Hyde Park Cemetery Board Brian Balls from Hyde Park and a current member, Cody Johnson from Hyde Park and a current member, Jennifer Bruff did I say that right? I still can't get,
Yeah.
still can't get her name right. Sorry, Jennifer, who is new. She's from North Logan. Rachel Willis, new from North Logan, and Alma Brown, also new from North Logan.
So do you need a second? Is that how we're gonna do this? You made a,
I will second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that on the Hyde Park, North Logan, that we approve Brian Balls, correct?
Yes.
Cody Johnson, Jennifer Bruff,
Yes.
Alma Brown.
Uh-huh.
Who was the last one? I'm sorry.
Rachel Willis.
Rachel Willis as a part of that cemetery board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion here concerning the Millville and Nibley Cemetery. I spoke to this a little bit earlier in the meeting, but I feel that, in my observation, that the current board is functioning and taking very good care of the Millville Nibley Cemetery. There's some challenge, of course, in the cemetery, but as far as the cemetery being taken care of, the duties of the participants and the board is fulfilling their assignments. And so I would propose that we reinstate the Millville Nibley Cemetery Board with the exception that we allow Richard Listman to be able to retire and that we appoint Danny Ames to fulfill his assignment. And I have been impressed with Danny in the event that he would be an individual that can use a crowbar and a shovel. And he's expressed when he was here at our other meeting that he only wants to serve and make it better. And so that puts new blood onto that council. And I don't want to get into the political side of this because I think that takes away from what the assignment in that cemetery district has done for so many years.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded on the on the Millville Nibley Cemetery that we keep the current board members, excepting Richard Lishman, who will be retiring. He would be replaced by Dan Ames. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Move to approve Richmond's board members and applicants, the 5 of those. Or is there a total 5 on Richmond?
Yes.
Yeah, 5 that were applied there, as well as Paradise. There's 5 there. And did Newton have the late one?
Newton just has one qualifying applicant for 3 positions.
But they got theirs in time, didn't they?
The
Qualified
Justin Cooley
So
got his in on time.
Okay, move to approve the 4 that are listed as in Newton?
No, the current board members did not formally apply.
For Newton. Okay, then I wanted to wait on those. We'll have to redo those. So, again, Richmond, Paradise, and Avon.
Okay.
Approve those that are stated there.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the 5 members for the Richmond, 5 members for Avon, 5 members on the Paradise as members of the cemetery board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good.
And move to on Newton and Cornish, and that was it. Newton and Cornish, that we go through one more cycle, and we go through and see if we can, get everyone to apply accordingly, and they'll be then held over till the next round.
Okay.
If in Cornish especially, you could appoint the one person that's applied.
That's right, Dale. That Buxton, he
And then
did.
notice for the other 2 slots if you wanted.
Then I'd go ahead and I'd move that we at least approve Dale Buxton. He can
No one ever dies in Cornish anyway, so we're fine.
Well, I'll second it to give Dale something to do.
They're as healthy as you can be out there.
All right.
And the water they drink.
Now, at one time when we were discussing this, we were going to add a suggestion that they look at renewing, talking about the renewal of their positions, either 2-year or 4-year. Is that correct?
I think we should have the county or the county executive, when he informs them of the vote, that he should instruct them that when they have their next board meeting, that they decide who is on a 4-year rotation and who is on a 2-year rotation.
Okay.
So that we don't have everybody being appointed and everybody going off the same year.
Councilman Erickson.
I think we can work through this every 4 years and be just fine.
Okay.
Well, how do we press forward with the idea of taking these cemetery districts, turning them into
City.
city?
Okay.
I don't know how to do that.
All right.
I want to jump in before you go too far.
Okay.
There was a motion by Dave Erickson
Yes.
for Dale Buxton. There wasn't a second and a vote. You probably ought to do that.
Okay, second, thank you. All right, it has been moved and seconded that for Cornish, that Dale Buxton be approved, and for the other members of that board and the Newton board, correct?
Yes.
Go in on the next new cycle or next cycle of approval because we're waiting for applications, correct?
Just
We
go
would
through the
issue a
process.
new notice.
New notice of application. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
On the issue of terms, the state code really directs that they be 4-year terms, but staggered with half. And somewhere along the way, that staggering got lost, and we're trying to figure out the best way to get the staggered terms back, which would be to give direction to the districts that they really ought to decide who's going to fill out 2 years and who's going to go for the next 4.
The historic thing with these cemetery boards is that you have to beg people to be on them, and so it's a little bit interesting that we've had so much discussion on them, because I remember in the years that I've served, we worked very, very, very hard to come up with the name of Doug Pearson and to talk him into serving, and so I don't think you're going to have this type of commotion as a general rule. I think you're going to be back to the situation where you have to contact them, ask them if they're still willing to serve, and then go on. But I do think it's a good idea to have it so that if there's anyone else that would really like to serve, that there's a time that they can put their name in and be considered. That sends the message to the new board or the board that, hey, there's some other people that are interested. So.
Very good. John, was I supposed to waive the rules on that? Yes, okay. So do I do this again with waiving the rules, or just add that?
I move that we waive the rules on
waive the
those that we
rules
just
and-
passed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Second on that?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we waive the rules on Resolution 2022-10 with everything that we just passed. Moving on, 11D, Resolution 2022-15.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Before we move on, I wanted to just make a point of information. One of my goals for the year was to make sure that these people who are appointed to these districts are aware of their duties and law, the laws regarding budget and open meetings, and I've been in contact with the state auditor's office working to get something set up so they could have some in-person training.
Awesome, thank you. All right.
Madam Chair, that
yes.
motion was made, but you didn't vote. Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay. All right, Resolution 2022-15. A resolution declaring 3 county-owned parcels in the Logan, Hyde Park, Smithfield Canal to be surplus property and approving disposal of those plots by quitclaim deed to property owners.
I'll waive the rules and make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-15.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, and waiving the rules on Resolution 2022-15, declaring 3 county-owned parcels in the Logan Hyde Park, Smithfield Canal to be surplus property, and approving disposal of those plots by quitclaim deed to property owners. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Hang on one second, is that, it keeps referring to the Logan Hyde Park Smithfield Canal. There is no
It's
such.
just what it was at the time.
I know, but there is no such thing.
Well, let's get the right
If
name
you-
on it.
It is the cash high line.
Why don't you entertain a motion to change the name of the resolution?
So I would make a motion that we change the name from the Logan Hyde Park Smithfield Canal to the Cache Highline Canal when we.
And include that in the whereas clause that identifies the name of the canal company.
Whereas clauses.
Sorry about that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Okay, let me see if I can get this straight. It's been moved and seconded, and we are waiving the rules to approve Resolution 2022-15 to rename this to the Cache Highline Canal? Is that?
And all the clauses, yes.
Cache Highline Canal and all the clauses, including the whereas. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, we want to have a discussion on the County Roads Committee, and Gina would like to open this up, I think.
Yes, thank you, Barbara. So if you recall, I discussed last time a little bit of an issue that we were having in the Hyde Park area. And in talking with Matt from our road department about that situation, it came up that he had been looking to start a roads committee. And we've had a mountain roads committee, but this roads committee would be not the mountains. There are the other roads that we have in the county, and would look at, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, help us look at policy and make policy suggestions for how we're going to manage some of these roads. And so wanted Matt to come and talk to us about that.
Thank you.
Yep, Matt Phillips, Public Works Director. I believe there's already this committee formed. But since I've been here at the county for the last 2.5 years, we've never had a meeting, never really officially made sure the council knew who that member was, to my knowledge. But exactly to Gina's point, and John and I have had many discussions about issues with the roads, and so we wanted to make sure that the council's aware that we want to have this committee, work with Executive Zook, make sure if there's anyone else that wants to be a part of it, just have a discussion. But that's where a lot of our, when John and I first came to the county, we were talking about easements, road issues, right away, there's Coldwater, there's Davenport, there's, a lot of issues going on in the county, and we thought it would be good to have this roads committee. Like I said, I believe that there is one formed. There is kind of one maybe on your guys' committee list of who that is.
Janine, do we show anything on?
Back in February, when all the committee assignments were done, Gordon was appointed as the council rep.
I was the Mountain Roads Committee individual, and
I was on that too.
Yeah.
Mountain Roads.
So that was mountain roads?
Yeah.
Okay.
There isn't any regular roads.
No regular roads?
No.
All right.
So our goal, or at least talking to John and from the Public Works Department, is to have a roads committee, and then maybe as needed, we kind of have a special mountain roads meeting, and we invite the Forest Service or we invite other people, but mostly county staff, elected officials come to the roads committee, and then depending upon what road we're talking about or what issues we're having, we might invite other people to attend to get their input, whether it be Forest Service, whether it be a mayor, whether it be Jeff Gilbert from CMPO, Carly from Trails, but members like Chris Herrild from Development Services would probably come to those meetings on a regular basis. We would probably want someone from the attorney's office to discuss any legal issues, so that's what we would like to. So.
Why couldn't we just drop Mountain from the Mountain Roads Committee and just
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
That, in one way, that's exactly what we'd like to do, is have this committee advise on both mountain roads and valley floor roads. The difference being that the prior Mountain Roads Committee included members of the public throughout the valley. And this is really a county staff and elected officials committee that would bring in some outside people as needed to consult.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes.
The history, and you can probably maybe even go deeper, the history of that roads committee was actually back when access started getting shut down by private people. And
the Forest Service.
And the Forest Service, all that. That's when that was really activated and going. We had a lot of people that, they were quite passionate from the public. That's why a lot of public were on there to basically, to push back and say, hey, no, this is how we were looking at things. And we dug into all those things, and then it went to maintenance and culverts and all that kind of stuff that we talked about. And passing Davenport, we talked a lot about.
Yeah. One of the things that I remember we discussed, and we even had the state, the Forest Service, and we asked a question, why has Cache County got twice as many roads as Weber County, but when we split up the funds, it goes 50-50? And they never would ever answer that. That was an interesting discussion.
Anyway, that's kind of the history of that.
Was that created by the council, that committee, or?
I'm sure, well,
I think it was.
you'd have to go way back, but I'm sure it was.
Yeah, it was back a long time ago.
Janine's nodding yes.
But that's why I'm saying the makeup of this, I think, would be somewhat, we've got to probably get different public or different representation, or even not, I don't know whether you'll have public or not, I think it'd be good, but.
Those are all the kind of questions that would be nice to just know if there's any changes or issues, or how we want it to be organized. I mean, that's kind of what I'm hoping to hear, so that we can get moving. Our goal is just to get the committee formed and get rolling, so that we can start asking questions. So
awesome.
Whatever it takes.
I was just gonna say, it sounds kind of like, I'd be open to doing it like we do the audit committee. It's advisory to the council, because we're voting on all the roads and things. And so we could set that up, and the audit committee does have one public representative on it, kind of an outside source, that we can find somebody that would be, a member of the public that could share with us, but we have it as an advisory committee to the council.
That's what I was hoping to be advisor to the council and be able to.
And I believe that's what it's termed. I think it is the County Roads Advisory Committee. I think that's the term, if I'm not mistaken.
I asked that we have two public, one from the north, one from the south, where both.
That's a great idea.
Heavier concentration of county roads are.
The other thing that kind of.
You okay with that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The other thing I'm just thinking now that kind of ties into that is we got that fuel tax that we build all those additional roads and what on, and that ought to be discussed, because I think the mayors kind of dominate that, and we as a council don't have a lot to say in that unless we don't agree, and then we have to jump through hoops and stand on our heads to get the attention of that committee. And I think we're the ones that allocate the money. We ought to have some input as when it starts, rather than when it's all been decided and then try to get our approval.
And I think that's probably what you were speaking to with Jeff Gilbert from CMPO, maybe being on that committee.
I wasn't, for the record, I'm not really trying to pull COG into this and how COG is. It's more of county issues. But if the county's trying to do some kind of a transportation master plan, and we want to talk to Jeff, and we want to see if that aligns with CMPO or any bike trails, those types of things, that's where we'd pull Jeff in to get his expertise, or on any of our transportation planning. But this committee, we can talk about a lot of things. We feel like you could probably meet once a month for quite a while and not even scratch the surface on a lot of the issues with the roads, but getting feedback on what roads we should be working on, what we want to see, where growth and development is, and just making sure that the public works isn't operating in its own little silo. We want to make sure that we're open, we're having good conversations with the executive, with the council, and that all of our decisions and our work plans and our capital improvements are in line with, where the county's going and where our needs are.
Okay.
I would add to that of necessity, it needs to be not an executive committee or a council committee, but an ad hoc advisory committee of the council. Unless you want to have a committee from the council that advises on when you're going to vacate roads, when you're going to appropriate money for roads, then a separate committee that advises on when are we going to litigate. That's the executive side. When are we going to litigate roads that are the county's by use? When are we going to spend on this road versus that road once the money's allocated? The roads really, there are a lot of questions that that Matt and I would just like some help setting priorities. And some of those decisions are legislative decisions. Some of them are executive decisions. So I'd hesitate to say this is a council committee or this is an executive committee unless you want to have two committees and silo what you discuss. I think it ought to just be an ad hoc committee that helps staff allocate resources, because we could go start filing quiet title lawsuits on quite a number of roads in the county, but it'd be nice to get a sense for which ones people see as priority. And there's a number of roads that we could recommend vacating, but it'd be nice to get input from folks.
It'd be nice to have some policy too, if we needed suggested policies for roads dealing with problems like we've talked about.
Yes.
Recently did the road manual, John and I worked together and was passed by the passed by the council. But those would be good things if we're seeing the same issues over and over in these committees, that we can start working on policy or give direction. Hey, I think these are things that need to change, or we need to work with these other cities. There's just a lot that can be done, and we just feel like having some kind of advisory board will help all of us make sure that our focus is in the right direction.
Great. Would anybody, any of the council be interested in?
I don't want to volunteer for anything, but these guys are my department, so I will be on the committee.
Okay, we've got Nolan.
I think Dave and I would be willing to serve. At least I would. I won't speak for Dave.
Speaking of the mountain,
Speak for Dave. Dave's on it.
Dave and I will.
Dave and I will. He'd be glad.
I'm not, and I can't find any.
Dave
Last
will,
time I
I
can
will.
see anything from the Mountain Roads Committee, it was back in like 2016, so.
Really?
It's been a while.
So.
There was a really active.
I don't think it's been quite.
There was a real active group on the mountain roads there for quite a while.
we
We
did.
met quite often, and
We did.
we had a lot of challenges with that.
So, I mean, like John said, we would like to move away from a mountain and just kind of have a roads advisory committee. So if there is something on there that should be, I'll look in to see if there's maybe something that we're not gonna continue to have that one, if we need to do anything to
Dissolve it or something.
solve it, yeah.
Did you stop serving treats, and that's why they stopped coming?
No, we'll still give you guys treats, so.
Changing topics, wasn't it 2022 when Highway 30 was going to be worked on? Is that not correct?
Are you talking about SR 30?
Yeah.
It is,
Wasn't that this year?
2022.
I think they're still trying to work on some agreements with Pacific Corp.
Are they?
They were in the middle of their FERC licensing, and so I think some of their easements, and I don't think there's a problem with them. It's just, it takes a little time to work with Pacific Corp, and that's really the first area that they need to start. So when I asked UDOT just a little while ago, they didn't give me a firm date on when that may be completed and when they may actually start. So I don't know if anyone else has heard anything different in their meetings, but.
About SR 30?
Yeah.
I spoke with UDOT about a week ago. They said they're almost ready to advertise for bids.
Yeah.
They're hoping to start construction in the late summer, early fall.
Property that we sold to them under threat of condemnation from them, that sale closed this week.
All right, back to this roads committee.
Yep.
Back to the roads committee.
I think, yeah,
If you, Dave, Erickson, you're okay with, would you like to contact them, Matt, and try to get this ball rolling and the executive
I'll
or
work with the
whatever,
executive to reach out and try to set up a meeting here in the near future.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Gina. Okay. All right, very good. The 2022 budget process, discussion on this. Do we want to go into this, or?
Well, I just wanted to put this on because we're getting close to that process, and wanted to ask what the council thought, because SB 162, I get that number mixed up, that UAC worked on gives the county council, allows the county council to be part of the process of making a tentative budget. And knowing that's coming up really quick, I thought it would be important for us to look ahead to see, as council, how we wanted that to be and what that meant. And I was proposing that doing something that other councils do, and I believe also commissioners, but that's their legislative side. They have the departments come in and give presentations for why they need, what they want in their budget. And that's not something we've ever done, but I thought it would be helpful and get us part of the process. It would be more labor intensive. I know for some councils, they end up meeting every week in order for them to get that budget process done. And I wasn't sure how you guys felt about that, but wanted to know what you thought about how we as a council should participate in the budget process from the preparing standpoint.
And let me see, where's Cameron? Cameron's gone. But for those who've been on the budget committee, have we had departments come in the past?
Since I've been on.
Okay,
We did have.
we used to, yeah, we used to.
When we did the budget.
Yeah.
It was out, and then the departments would come in and talk to us about it.
Right.
And that was a long process, because there's a lot of departments.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think there should probably be more discussion, but I truly think we should get back to that and be more involved.
Okay, and I agree with the departments coming in. Should we set this as a workshop?
Yeah, let's do that.
We always did it at 3 o'clock, and then we go into our regular meeting at 5.
Okay, so we'll set this as a workshop.
I think we gave them, each department, only had 15 minutes or something like that that they could present.
So, okay, just so that I've got this straight on the workshop, are we going to actually invite the departments in at that time? Yeah. Or are we just going to discuss the process of doing the budget?
Let's discuss the process, and then we can get it in writing and get it into our county code.
And should we set that workshop for the 24th?
Yeah, I think so, because we're coming right up on the process beginning.
So we wouldn't have departments come for this budget preparation, or we will?
No, we need a discussion of what we want the process to look like and get it in writing.
And then we'd have another workshop.
And then we could have another workshop as they come in. So we need to look through the process. The process, as I understand, is finance officer goes and has them give him information about what they need in their budgets. Seems to me they could come and give that to the whole council at the same time.
Well, yeah, I mean.
Right?
They ought to come already with their budget in mind.
Yes.
And
then present the budget to the council. And their justifications, if road department needs to buy 322 new dump trucks, we want to know why.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's leading into, what I'm thinking too, is that, see, when they come in, we just get these general categories, and you really wonder what that category, it says travel, and I would like them to say, well, we're sending so-and-so here and so-and-so there, just that they're actually got people and places connected with that budget, rather than, there may be some of those you sit there and go, they might have 10 things that they're flying to or going to, and you're going, and what do these do for you? We need to know those things so that we can say, no, only go to 5 of them this year, cut that by 25,000 or something. We ought to have that, we need to have that understanding.
Okay.
Right now, it's just we get these big numbers, and there's an increase, and it affects something, we go, and how is it really divided up? We don't know.
Okay. So what I'm thinking, and if Gina, maybe you're in accordance with this, we have the budget process discussed at a workshop next meeting on the 24th. And then I think we're going to have to give all the departments time so that they can get their act together and get a presentation made to us on that.
Can we give that notice now and tell them, okay,
Yeah,
we're
we could
preparing
give
the
them that.
budget and
Yeah.
be ready in June sometime?
In June? Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. So what meeting in June would you like to have them come and present for a workshop?
I think you could, June, July, August, you could kind of space them. couldn't you?
Space them out,
Yeah.
okay? Should we have just certain departments, or should we, and have so many at a time at each workshop?
When they did it in the past, they designated so many department heads to come and
Okay.
present. Well, they come and, we had access to their budgets, and then they came and talked about the budget and gave us an opportunity to ask them, but I'm warning you, this takes a long time because we got a lot of departments.
Okay.
Well, if we do 15 minutes, you would be able to go through, what, 5 or 6 on each workshop?
Okay, our first meeting then in June is the 14th. Do you want some to come then, or all of them? What's, okay,
Some
so,
of them, yeah, because, yeah.
So
And that
June
gives them a month,
okay.
right?
Okay, June 14th would be the first one, first workshop, right?
I'd be the first one to give them instructions.
I
to
say
do-
we develop that timeline and we get that process at the workshop. on the
Okay,
24th.
I see, okay.
Oh, that's a good
We
That's a
figure
good
all
point.
that out.
Okay, I like that. Okay, very good. Is that what you wanted to?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I wanted to do. Thank you,
Okay,
Barbara.
thank you. All right, other business, Smithfield Health Days Parade, Saturday, this coming Saturday at 10 o'clock. I will go, Executive Zook will be there, David Erickson?
No, I won't be
Okay,
there.
all right. Anyone else want to join us?
Cutting hay then.
I can't make that one.
Okay.
I'll be out of town.
All right, then the Richmond Black and White Days Parade. Executive Zook, David Erickson, Carl Ward.
I think I should be there.
Okay. I will not be able to be there. All right, council member reports. Let's start down with Councilman Erickson. Anything to report?
This solid waste thing is, it may get more exciting before it gets less exciting. Crap may hit the fan. So anyway, I think overall, the process and how things are aligned, I think it will work out as long as all the cards are on the table for everybody. I really do. The other thing, I do have a question, and I'm not sure how the county looks at this. Do we have a whistleblower ordinance or protection or anything in place for any employee that maybe wants to share or sees something of impropriety or anything that they can be protected?
We talked about this a few years ago, and I thought we did. I thought we determined.
Yeah.
Isn't there a federal law on that? My wife's
I
in
would
the
think
industry.
there is.
I know there's state law. I've not looked into this. This is the first I thought about it. I've not seen that in our county code as I've looked at our county code, but I know that there's state law that provides
Just
protection.
want to make sure that our employees are protected and feel free to be able to speak freely as they see something that is not right or that they perceive is not right. I just want to make sure that they're protected. So that's just a question I have.
Do we need to visit with Amy Adams on that?
It's a good idea.
Amy or John?
Amy would likely have more off the top of her head
Yeah.
knowledge. I certainly could look into it.
Okay.
And I think maybe we talked about that in the audit committee a little bit from that standpoint, Carl, but I think it'd be good to revisit.
Okay,
That's it. Thank you.
okay, very good. Gordy?
I attended a lunch with Dirk Anderson. He and I decided to go out for lunch to get to know each other a little bit better. And I will report to the council that I found him a very, very capable and a very enjoyable person to have on our council. And I appreciate being able to do that with him. And I'm going to also go out to lunch with our executives so that we can sit down and have a good long visit. And after that, I'll probably talk with Sean because he is kind of the rebel and we need to pull him in. So I
name is
encourage the
Maverick.
rest of the council to go and get to know him.
Thank you, Gordy.
And anyway, That's what I'd have, that's all I got.
Excellent. Nolan?
Did Gordy say he'd pay if we do that, Mr. Councilman?
I paid.
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard. so.
I paid, I did. I'm not gonna, I tried to buy him off while I had him there.
I don't think I have anything that I'm aware of.
Oh, I don't have really much to share. I just read something interesting the last couple of weeks I thought I'd share with everybody, from Gandhi, that said, an error does not become truth by reason of multiplied propagation, nor does truth become error because nobody sees it. Truth is self-sustained. Just thought I'd share that with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Carl?
Nothing, no.
Gina?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Okay, the only thing I want to bring up again, it's coming up that we should have our quarterly meeting with planning and zoning. We were gonna do a quarterly meeting with them, correct?
Chris, any points we should be discussing, pinpoint on that planning and zoning?
Barbara, way to stay on the ball on that, thank you. So much to
I mean,
remember.
I'd like to identify points that we should be considering before we walk in there and say,
Okay,
let's talk.
good deal.
Yes, I want to get rid of it.
Yeah, we did talk about, I thought we were gonna get more meat and potatoes than other stuff rather than what we talked about last time.
You guys aren't ready for meat and potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
We're still on the milk.
We got to start with the milk. And part of that is getting us on the same page with this general plan process and some of the things that we've been working on. One of the things we could probably discuss as part of this, I've shared this and talked with the executive about this and with our countywide planner, is the implementation team that will need to be put together to help us apply all those things we're learning. So in hindsight, our preference would be moving forward as we go through these long-range planning processes, that implementation team starts at the beginning. And I don't know what it looks like yet or who it's going to be comprised of. We have some lists of just general ideas, but that might be a topic to discuss, is how are we going to apply the things we learn from the general plan process. I know I've heard from different council members about interesting priorities or things they feel of interest that are a priority for changes within our code. And we've talked about steep slopes. That's been an issue with that last rezone you listened to. We've talked about group housing. I feel like I'm focusing on Paul. Sorry, Paul. We've had those discussions with everybody, though. Anything to do with our sensitive areas ordinance, anything at all to do with our code, we've had discussions about. We want to have a good functioning code there. So I know conditional use permits has been part of that. All those things are in process. We're happy to discuss them, but we don't want to be premature on that discussion and just tell you, this is a great discussion, but we need to wait until we wrap up this other piece. So as we hit this next quarter, I can give you a list of things that could be a priority. We could focus on low-hanging fruit on code amendment if you'd like to focus there. We can focus on other stuff that you hear from your different constituents that are consistent issues if it has to do with anything to do with what the commission might look at or consider. Something that might be really great that we didn't do last time is to allow the commissioners to hear from you. I think the executive recommended this, and I think it's a very good idea, to hear from you what you think the priorities are for the commission. So that would be very helpful to have that discussion and let them respond to that and let you hear what their response is to some of the things you think are important or priorities for that commission. I can share my own things which I think are important for the commission.
I do have one thing I want to bring up now you talked about that. I think water is going to be an issue. I don't know how we address it, but I think we need to have a discussion, whether that's conservation. I know water rights and that are issued by the state, but as we look at this development and building, we've got to address water.
Okay.
So if you're on board with that, we can do some prep again, send out a little, what do you call it, survey at the beginning to get an idea from you what those priorities are, and put those together in a list and have kind of that good interaction as a group. I think the more prep we do on the front end for these group meetings, joint meetings, the better discussion we have.
Okay.
So we'll prep the similar type format, and if you're okay with this idea of hearing from council members of what your priorities are for the commission, and then having that response back from the commission and kind of setting some general broader ideas, that will be very helpful for commissioners. Again, they're mainly there to administer the code, but they do make recommendations to you that are legislative decisions.
And we could include the water
Oh,
issue.
they're going to be
Okay.
right on board with that. That's,
John, can you give us any, I mean, this
I
is
am
such
not
a
a water
legal
law.
issue.
I
I
am
know,
not a
but
water law
it-
expert,
there's
so
so
we'll
much
have to-
water law involved that,
What if we had the water, I'm sorry, I can't.
Will Atkin would be great to have.
The water district, yeah. Chair come and be part of
And,
that. to
and we
help
should
us.
probably invite Richard Worley
He's
from.
on the planning commission.
he's on the
Yeah,
planning
never
commission,
mind, I
so
forgot, he's on the
you'd
planning
almost
commission.
need the state
Oh.
water users.
Well, there's different roles there. So, I mean, Nate Dowgs will be great and helpful, but you probably, if you're going to have a water discussion, you've got to involve septic and those types of things and the culinary side with the state. So you got to pull in some state stuff if we're going to have a more round discussion.
And I'm not saying limit, I'm just saying we need to be thinking of conservation and everything else. You talk about code amendment, I wonder where we sit with the enforcement officer, all of those things, so.
Some of that's going to not follow to your commission though,
No, but
but I can give you updates on that stuff.
Can we set a date for that now, or do you want to wait until next meeting?
If you have preferences, let us know. We'll send out the
Okay.
invite and do kind of a poll to see where everybody falls. And we'll try to get a date that works for everybody.
Awesome.
Probably earlier in the summer before
Yep.
everybody takes off, right?
Yeah, I agree. All right, thank you, Chris. We'll get the ball, if you'll help us get the ball rolling on that.
Will do.
Thank you. Okay, any other? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.